Hello! Today we're going to be talking about applied chords, which are also known as secondary dominant and secondary leading tone chords. So we've already learned about dominant and leading tone chords. We know that they're constructed diatonically using the natural scale steps of a major key. Dominant chords are major and they're built on scale degree 5, or the dominant, while leading tone chords are diminished and built on scale degree 7, or the leading tone. The dominant 7 chord and the leading tone both contain the leading tone and the subdominant, or scale degrees 7 and 4. This creates the orally distinct tritone interval, which sounds dissonant and we want to hear resolve. This need for resolution is one of the defining characteristics of tonal music. Now, both chords can be used for the special dominant function to resolve to the tonic. For final cadences, the dominant, or dominant 7 chord, is used more commonly than the leading tone chord because the leading tone, or scale degree 7, resolves upward, while the dominant moves to the tonic in the bass. Now here's a quick visual. We see the leading tone resolving upwards, while scale degree 5 descends to 1 in the bass. So we can see here, that's our 5, 7 to 1. Let's listen to how that sounds. First try and hear the leading tone resolve upwards to the tonic. Now, try and pick out scale degree 5, descending a 5th to the tonic. Now hopefully you were able to hear how those resolutions happen. If you're having trouble hearing them, I recommend you sit down at the piano and practice listening to resolutions, as hearing dominant to tonic motion is critical to hearing secondary dominance. So now, what is an applied chord? Why are there so many names for them? How do they function? Why are they effective? When can we use them? And where can we identify them in a piece of music? First off, there are a few different names for applied chords. Secondary dominant chords, secondary function chords, applied dominant chords, applied chords. These can be used interchangeably and they all mean the same thing. Applied chords function by creating a new leading tone or a new dominant-tonic relationship within a key. This is achieved by chromatically altering one or two pitches of a diatonic major or minor mode. Now we've already seen chromatic alteration in the minor mode. We usually raise scale degree 7 to make a major chord on the dominant. By raising the 7th, we get our tritone. A dominant to tonic relationship is created, and we want to hear resolution. So, how do we approach a chromatically altered pitch when we see or hear one? Is it a secondary dominant? Well, first we need to ask, does it create a new major or diminished triad? If yes, we next have to identify the root of the following chord. Once we have figured out what the root of the two chords are, we need to identify the interval between the root of the chromatically altered chord and the chord that follows it. If there is a 5th after a major chord or a semitone after a diminished chord, there is a dominant-tonic relationship. Now let's see an example. Here we have an example in the key of C major. We have one chromatically altered pitch in the second measure, which creates a new major triad, E major. We know that a triad built on E in the key of C is normally minor. Therefore, E major does not belong. Let's take a look at the chord directly after the E major. We see that it is an A minor, which is a 5th below the E major chord. Let's listen to it and hear how tension is created by the chromatically altered pitch, which resolves through dominant to tonic motion. Hopefully, you were able to hear how the chromatically altered pitch added some flavor to the chord progression by temporarily tonicizing the A minor chord. It's all about tension and release, dissonance and resolution. Let's take another example. Now this example is in the key of B flat, and we see that we have two chords with chromatically altered pitches. The first chord has an A flat, which turns a B flat major chord into a B flat dominant 7 chord. The second chord contains two chromatically altered pitches, and we can see that it is a fully diminished 7 chord. The raised E natural is going to resolve up to the F, while the lowered D flat is going to move down to the C. Let's hear how that sounds. Now, doesn't that just sound great? Well, that's about all the time we have for now. Hopefully you learned a little bit about secondary dominant chords, or applied chords, or secondary function chords, however you want to call them. We'll see you in class and we'll discuss this a bit more.